How do you make a woman feel desire for you, even when she doesn't seem interested at all? That question alone has kept so many men awake at night. You meet someone incredible. The chemistry feels possible. You're kind, attentive, respectful. You text back quickly. You compliment her. You try to show her you'd be a good partner. And yet, something feels off. Her energy is lukewarm. Her responses are polite but distant. And the more effort you put in, the more she seems to pull away. Hi, I'm Sarah Johnson, and welcome to The Female Touch, the channel where we decode female psychology with honesty, warmth, and emotional intelligence. And before we go any further, I want to say something directly to you. If you've ever felt confused, rejected, or secretly frustrated because you did everything right and she still didn't feel it, you are not broken. You are not unattractive, and you are definitely not alone. Most men were never taught how attraction actually works. You were taught to be polite, to be stable, to be a provider, to prove yourself. But attraction doesn't grow through logic. It grows through emotion. And today, I'm going to walk you through 7 psychological triggers that create desire. Not manipulation, not games, but real, emotionally grounded attraction. And the final one? It's the one almost no one uses correctly. And when it's done right, it changes everything. So stay with me. And if you're here because you genuinely want to understand women better, not control them, not trick them, but connect with them, make sure you subscribe to The Female Touch, because this channel is about depth, not surface-level advice. Now let's begin. First, understand this. Attraction is emotional, not logical. Here's where most men go wrong. You think, if I show her I'm reliable, kind, and serious, she'll feel safe and choose me. And yes, those qualities matter, but they don't spark desire. Desire lives in a different part of the brain. Research in evolutionary psychology shows that attraction is often driven by subconscious pattern recognition, mental shortcuts the brain uses to assess value, confidence, emotional strength, and genetic fitness. It's not a conscious checklist. While you're explaining why you'd be a great partner, her deeper brain is scanning for emotional stability, social confidence, internal direction, and self-worth. And if those signals aren't felt, not said, but felt, her attraction switch stays off. So let's talk about what actually turns it on. Trigger number 1, masculine presence. This is not about muscles. It's not about height. It's not about expensive clothes. It's about energy. When you walk into a room, do you shrink slightly? Do your eyes search for approval? Do you adjust your posture when someone attractive walks in? Women pick up on this in seconds. A man with presence moves slowly, not lazily, deliberately. His shoulders are relaxed. His breathing is steady. He's not scanning for validation. And here's the key. He looks comfortable being alone. That comfort communicates value without words. Imagine this. You're at a social gathering. Instead of rushing to fill silence, you pause. You observe. You smile lightly, not nervously. You're not trying to impress anyone. You're simply grounded. That grounded energy is rare, and rarity creates attraction faster than compliments ever could. Women are drawn to men who feel centered in themselves, not reactive, not anxious, not performing. Centered. If this already challenges how you've been approaching dating, pause and reflect for a moment. Ask yourself honestly, when I interact with women I like, am I trying to earn approval, or am I expressing who I already am? That question alone can shift everything. Trigger number 2, emotional challenge. Now this one surprises a lot of men. You think agreeing with her makes you likable. It makes you safe, but it doesn't create spark. Attraction needs polarity. When you agree with everything she says, when you never tease, never push back gently, never play, there's no contrast. And without contrast, there's no tension. And tension, not conflict, but playful tension, is the fuel of desire. For example, she says, I love waking up at 5 a.m. Instead of saying, wow, that's amazing, you smile slightly and say, 5 a.m.? That sounds suspiciously like something a secret supervillain would do. It's playful. It's light. It's confident. You're not challenging her identity, you're engaging her. And here's what that does psychologically. It signals you are not intimidated. You're not seeking approval. You're comfortable expressing yourself. That comfort creates polarity, and polarity creates magnetism. If you've been afraid to tease or disagree because you didn't want to lose her, understand this. You lose attraction faster by being overly agreeable than by being playfully confident. And if you're finding this helpful, take 1 second and hit the like button. It genuinely helps this message reach men who were never taught this. Trigger number 3, selective attention. This is where many good men sabotage themselves. You meet someone you like, and suddenly she becomes your focus. You reply instantly. You cancel plans. You rearrange your schedule. You overinvest emotionally too quickly. And you think you're showing interest, but here's what her subconscious reads. If he's this available this fast, maybe he doesn't have much else going on. Attraction isn't built on over-availability. It's built on perceived value. A man with purpose, real purpose, has things to do. He has friendships, hobbies, goals, direction. He is interested in her, yes, but he is not orbiting her. That balance creates curiosity. When your life is full, your attention becomes valuable. Scarcity, not games, not manipulation, but healthy independence, creates desire. Ask yourself, if she disappeared tomorrow, would my life still feel full? If the answer is no, that's where you focus, because women are drawn toward men who are moving forward, not standing still waiting for approval. Presence and challenge spark attraction, but connection builds desire. Intentional listening is different from passive hearing. Most people wait for their turn to speak. Intentional listening means you absorb emotional meaning. She mentions casually that she loves orchids. 2 weeks later, you see one somewhere and send a photo saying, "This reminded me of something you said." That tiny detail communicates something powerful. I see you. Women crave emotional recognition more than grand gestures. And here's why it works psychologically. Being remembered activates emotional validation. Emotional validation builds trust. Trust makes vulnerability safe, and vulnerability deepens attraction. But be careful. This only works when combined with strength. If you're overly attentive without masculine grounding, it feels needy. Care plus confidence. That combination is magnetic. Trigger number 5, calibrated vulnerability. This is one of the most misunderstood aspects of attraction. Many men believe they must appear unshakable, but women don't connect with perfection. They connect with humanity. The key word here is calibrated. You don't unload trauma on the second date. You don't play the victim. You share honestly, without collapsing emotionally. For example, instead of saying, "My ex destroyed me, I'll never recover," you say, "That relationship taught me a lot about boundaries. It wasn't easy, but I grew from it." Do you feel the difference? One feels unstable. The other feels strong and self-aware. Vulnerability paired with stability builds trust faster than bravado ever will. And trust is the gateway to deeper desire. Trigger number 6, gradual physical touch. Now we move into something subtle but powerful. Human bonding is chemical as much as emotional. Light, respectful touch releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. A brief touch on the arm during laughter, a gentle hand guiding her through a doorway, a warm hug that lingers half a second longer. Not forced, not rushed, not invasive. Gradual. When physical contact feels safe and natural, her brain begins associating you with comfort. Comfort reduces defenses. Reduced defenses allow emotional openness, and emotional openness strengthens attraction. But timing is everything. If she leans in, maintains eye contact, mirrors your energy, those are green lights. If she pulls back, respect it immediately. Confidence is attractive. Pressure is not. Now, before I reveal the final trigger, the one that keeps her thinking about you even when you're not there, I want you to pause for a second. Which of these have you been missing? Presence? Challenge? Purpose? Listening? Vulnerability? Comment below with the one you're going to focus on improving. I actually read the comments, And I love seeing the self-awareness happening in this community. Now, let's talk about the most powerful trigger of all. Trigger number 7, controlled unpredictability. The human brain loves dopamine. Dopamine is released in anticipation, not certainty. When something is slightly unpredictable, it becomes mentally stimulating. If you are always predictable, always available, always initiating, always responding immediately, always emotionally steady in the same way, her brain relaxes into certainty. Certainty is safe, but mystery creates fascination. Controlled unpredictability does not mean inconsistency. It does not mean emotional hot and cold manipulation. It means rhythm. Sometimes you initiate, sometimes you let her. Sometimes you're warm and playful. Sometimes you're deeply grounded and calm. You are layered. You are not a script she can memorize. That subtle unpredictability keeps her thinking about you. Because attraction grows strongest in anticipation. When she wonders, what is he going to say next? When will I hear from him? What side of him will show up today? Her imagination activates, and imagination is one of the strongest drivers of desire. Energy changes results. The hidden layer, emotional self-sufficiency. There is one trait that quietly amplifies all 7 triggers we discussed: emotional self-sufficiency. This means you enjoy connection, but you don't depend on it. You appreciate attention, but you don't need it to feel valuable. You desire a woman, but you don't collapse without her. Women are incredibly sensitive to emotional dependence, not because they're judging you, but because emotional dependence feels heavy. When a woman senses that her response determines your mood, attraction weakens. When she senses that you're grounded regardless of her validation, attraction strengthens. This doesn't mean being cold. It means having internal stability. Let me ask you something important. When she doesn't text back immediately, what happens inside you? Do you spiral? Do you overthink? Do you draft and delete multiple messages? Or do you stay calm, continue your day, and trust the dynamic? That inner reaction tells you exactly where your power currently sits. And this is not about pretending not to care. It's about caring from strength, not fear. Women feel the difference instantly. Why over-pursuing kills desire? Now let's talk about something uncomfortable. Over-pursuit. Hollywood taught you, fight for her, prove your love, never give up. But real attraction doesn't grow under pressure. When you pursue too intensely too soon, you remove mystery. And mystery is oxygen for desire. Think about anticipation. When something is slightly out of reach, the brain increases dopamine production. When something is constantly available, the brain relaxes. Desire needs a little space to breathe. That's why selective attention works. That's why controlled unpredictability works. Not because they're games, but because they preserve emotional tension. And tension is the bridge between interest and desire. The confidence illusion versus real confidence. A lot of men try to act confident. They speak louder. They brag. They dominate conversations. But women are intuitive. They can feel when confidence is performance. Real confidence is quiet. It's the ability to sit in silence without filling it. It's the ability to disagree without becoming defensive. It's the ability to walk away without resentment. Confidence is not force. It's stability. And stability feels safe. Safe doesn't mean boring. Safe means emotionally regulated. And emotional regulation is incredibly attractive. When you don't overreact, when you don't panic, when you don't try to control outcomes, you communicate power. And power, when calm, is magnetic. The power of emotional restraint. Here's something rarely discussed. Emotional restraint is seductive. Not suppression, not coldness. Restraint. When you don't reveal everything immediately. When you don't confess intense feelings on date 2. When you let emotional depth unfold gradually, you create layers. Layers create curiosity. Curiosity fuels attraction. If you tell her everything about yourself in the first week, there's nothing left to discover. But when you reveal yourself over time, thoughtfully, intentionally, you create a journey. And women fall in love with journeys, not information. When she doesn't seem interested. Let's return to the original question. What if she genuinely seems uninterested? First, understand this. You cannot force attraction, and trying to is the fastest way to lose dignity. But sometimes what looks like disinterest is actually neutral energy waiting for stimulation. If she's polite but not invested, ask yourself, am I creating emotional movement, or am I staying in safe, logical conversation? Attraction requires emotional spikes, playfulness, eye contact, pauses, energy shifts. If every interaction feels like an interview, she won't feel desire. Shift the dynamic. Slow your speech slightly. Hold eye contact 1 second longer. Smile less frequently, but more meaningfully. Tease gently. Change the rhythm. Often, it's not that she isn't interested, it's that she hasn't felt anything yet. And feeling is everything. A deeper truth most men avoid. Sometimes, she truly isn't interested. And here is where your growth becomes visible. Do you try harder? Do you over-persuade? Do you negotiate attraction? Or do you calmly accept it and redirect your energy? A man who can walk away gracefully is rare. And ironically, that variability increases attraction in future interactions. Why? Because walking away communicates abundance, not arrogance. Abundance. When you don't cling, you show you have options, internally or externally. And that energy alone changes how women perceive you. Attraction versus attachment. Let's clarify something powerful. Attraction sparks connection. Attachment sustains it. The triggers I shared spark desire, but long-term success comes from emotional maturity. After attraction is built, you must transition from tension to trust, from polarity to partnership. That means consistency without losing mystery, vulnerability without losing strength, attention without losing independence. This balance is art, and art requires awareness. That's why I always say, psychology is not about manipulation. It's about understanding human nature so you can show up intentionally. A question for you. I want you to reflect deeply on this. When you think about the women you've desired most in your life, were they overly available, predictable, always validating you? Or were they layered, independent, slightly mysterious? Now reverse that. Are you embodying the same qualities you're attracted to? Because attraction is often reciprocal energy. Become the energy you seek. Practical integration. Let's make this real. Over the next 7 days, slow down your movements and speech. Reduce unnecessary texting. Add playful disagreement once per conversation. Remember one personal detail and bring it up later. Share one honest story about growth. Initiate light physical touch naturally. Leave one interaction slightly early, while energy is high. Notice what shifts, not just in her reaction, in yours. Because when you start operating from calm, grounded self-worth, you stop trying to make desire happen, and you start allowing it. Final words, from me to you. If no one has ever told you this before, hear it clearly now. You don't need to become someone louder, richer, more extreme, more aggressive. You need to become more centered. Attraction is less about adding and more about removing insecurity-driven behaviors. When you remove over-pursuit, when you remove approval-seeking, when you remove emotional reactivity, what's left? Strength, calm, presence. And those qualities are timeless. If this deeper dive helped you, comment growth below. I love seeing who's actually committed to becoming better, not just getting results, but evolving. Share this video with someone who needs clarity instead of confusion, and subscribe to The Female Touch if you're ready to approach relationships with intelligence, depth, and emotional power. Because attraction isn't a trick, it's an alignment between who you are and how you show up. And when those align, desire stops being something you chase. It becomes something that naturally moves toward you. I'll see you in the next conversation, bringing it all together. Here's the truth. You don't need tricks. You don't need manipulation. You don't need to become someone you're not. You need alignment. Masculine presence, playful challenge, selective attention, intentional listening, calibrated vulnerability, gradual touch, controlled unpredictability. When these are integrated naturally, you stop chasing, and something beautiful happens. She starts leaning in, not because you begged, not because you convinced, but because she feels something. And that feeling? That's desire. Before we close, I want to speak directly to the men who feel discouraged. If you've been rejected, if you've been friend-zoned, if you've been told you're such a nice guy, that doesn't mean you lack value. It means no one showed you how attraction actually works. But now you know. And awareness changes behavior. Behavior changes energy. Energy changes results.